Your home can look perfect and still be the reason you feel stuck. Not stuck in an obvious way, not in a dramatic life falling apart way, but in that quiet, frustrating way where you wake up tired, your motivation feels lower than it used to, and everything in life seems to take more effort than it should. And when this happens, most people blame themselves. They assume they're lazy, burned out, unfocused, not disciplined enough. They try new routines, productivity hacks, mindset shifts, and nothing really changes. But here's the uncomfortable truth almost no one talks about. Sometimes it's not you, it's your environment. Your nervous system is constantly scanning your surroundings, deciding whether it's safe to relax or necessary to stay alert. And if your space is quietly overstimulating, emotionally flat, or draining in subtle ways, your body never fully resets. You don't rest deeply, you don't think clearly, and over time, you lose momentum without realizing why. This is why some people move into a beautiful modern home and slowly start feeling worse instead of better. Everything looks right on the surface, the layout, the furniture, the colors, yet the space feels heavy. Progress slows, relationships feel colder, even small decisions start to feel exhausting, and no amount of redecorating, positive thinking, or self-discipline fixes it, because the problem isn't visible. It's physiological. Your environment is either giving energy back to you, or it's quietly taking it away. And one specific design choice plays a much bigger role in this than most people realize. In this video, I'm going to show you how color affects your nervous system, why one popular color can subtly work against your energy, and what to do if it's already in your home. Because once your space stops fighting your body, everything else starts to feel lighter. Most people assume that if a home looks good, it should automatically feel good to live in. Clean design, modern furniture, neutral colors, everything placed correctly. So when life still feels heavy inside that space, the confusion begins. Instead of questioning the environment, people turn inward. They assume the problem must be personal. They tell themselves they're just stressed, tired, or not trying hard enough. This is where many people get stuck, because they're looking in the wrong direction. A well-designed space can still overload your nervous system. Design focuses on appearance. Your body responds to stimulation. Those are not the same thing. Your brain doesn't care whether something is trendy or expensive. It cares about contrast, warmth, light, movement, and predictability. When those elements are missing or muted, your nervous system stays slightly alert all the time. Not anxious enough to notice, but never relaxed enough to recover. This is why discomfort at home often becomes normalized. People adapt. They say they're used to it. But adaptation doesn't mean the stress disappears. It just means your body carries it quietly in the background. Over time, this shows up as mental fog, irritability, low motivation, and that persistent feeling that something in life isn't moving forward. You might find yourself staying out longer, scrolling more, keeping background noise on, or avoiding stillness without realizing why. The environment is shaping behavior long before willpower gets involved. And here's the part most people never consider. Color is one of the strongest environmental signals your brain processes every single day. It's constant, it's unavoidable, and it directly influences how safe, alert, or drained your nervous system feels inside your own home. Some colors support balance and recovery. Others quietly suppress energy and emotional warmth, even when everything looks clean and modern. Once you understand how this works, you stop blaming yourself, and you start fixing the right thing. In the next part, we'll break down how color actually affects your nervous system and why one popular shade does far more damage than people realize. Color isn't just something your eyes notice. It's something your nervous system reacts to. Every color sends signals to the brain about how to respond, whether to stay alert, relax, focus, or prepare for action. This happens automatically, without conscious thought. Long before you decide how you feel in a space, your body has already made that decision for you. That's why two rooms with the same layout can feel completely different. One feels calm and supportive. The other feels draining, even if nothing is obviously wrong. The difference is often visual input, especially color. Your brain is constantly managing stimulation. Brightness, contrast, saturation, and warmth all matter. When these elements are balanced, your nervous system settles. When they're muted, flat, or overly dark, Your system works harder just to stay regulated. This is why certain environments feel refreshing, while others feel exhausting. Not because of emotion or belief, but because of cognitive load. The more effort your brain needs to process a space, the more energy it burns just being there. Color plays a major role in this. Warm tones tend to create approach and engagement. Cooler tones slow things down. Natural colors tend to feel safer because they match what the human brain evolved around. Artificial or overly neutral palettes can remove those cues entirely. Over time, living in a space that lacks visual warmth and contrast can subtly affect mood and behavior. People often report feeling less motivated, less expressive, and more emotionally flat. Not depressed, just dimmed. This doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, which is why it's so easy to miss. The key thing to understand is this: your environment doesn't have to feel bad to be draining. It just has to be incomplete. Once you see this, it becomes clear why some color choices support recovery and others quietly work against it. So, before we talk about the color you need to be careful with, let's look at the colors that consistently help the nervous system reset, recharge, and regain balance. Because knowing what to avoid only matters once you understand what actually supports you. Let's start with the colors that actually help your nervous system recover instead of constantly working overtime. These aren't trends. They're colors your brain already understands and responds to in predictable ways. Green, the color of recovery and forward movement. Green is the easiest color for the human nervous system to process. It's associated with nature, safety, and growth. When your brain sees green, it doesn't need to stay alert. It recognizes the signal as non-threatening, stable, and alive. That's why green environments often feel refreshing instead of draining. They reduce mental fatigue and help restore a sense of momentum. You don't need green everywhere. Even small doses matter. A healthy plant, a piece of artwork, or a soft green accent can subtly shift how a room feels. Green tells your system, things are growing, not stuck. Gold, the signal of value and stability. Gold works differently. It's not calming in the same way green is. Instead, it signals value, warmth, and importance. Psychologically, warm metallic tones create a sense of richness and stability. Not luxury, stability. They remind the brain that resources are present, not scarce. This is why gold accents often make spaces feel more grounded and intentional. One object is enough. Too much becomes distracting, but a small deliberate use can change the tone of an entire room. Gold communicates. This space supports me. Red, controlled energy and motivation. Red gets a bad reputation because people overuse it. But in small amounts, red is incredibly effective. It increases alertness, circulation, and emotional engagement. It wakes a space up. If a room feels emotionally flat or disconnected, a controlled red accent can restore warmth and presence. A pillow, a piece of art, or a single object is all it takes. Red isn't about chaos, it's about movement. Blue, calm and mental safety. Blue does the opposite of red. It slows the nervous system and supports emotional regulation. This is why blue works best in spaces meant for rest, focus, or recovery. Bedrooms, reading corners, and quiet workspaces benefit the most. Blue reduces overstimulation and helps the body feel safe enough to relax. When the body feels safe, the mind becomes clear. White, space to breathe. White reduces visual noise, it reflects light, increases perceived space, and lowers cognitive load. When used well, white gives the nervous system room to reset. But balance matters. Too much white without warmth can feel sterile. Pairing it with natural textures, plants, or warm tones keeps it supportive instead of cold. White creates clarity, not emptiness. Now that you understand how these colors support recovery, balance, and energy, it becomes easier to see why one popular color does the opposite. Because there is a shade that removes warmth, suppresses contrast, and quietly increases mental fatigue, even though it's often labeled as modern and sophisticated. And that's the color we need to talk about next. Now let's talk about the color that causes the most problems. Not because it's ugly, but because of how it affects you over time. That color is dark gray. Dark gray is often described as modern, clean, and sophisticated. It's everywhere in contemporary interiors, walls, furniture, floors, even entire rooms. And on the surface, it looks calm and minimal. But psychologically, dark gray does something very different. It absorbs light, it reduces contrast, and it removes warmth from a space. When your environment lacks warmth and visual variation, your nervous system doesn't fully relax, but it doesn't activate either. It sits in a muted, low-energy state. Not alert, not rested, just drained. This is why rooms dominated by dark gray often feel quiet in the wrong way. They don't feel peaceful. They feel flat, heavy, emotionally distant. People living in these spaces often say the same things, even if they've never connected the dots. I feel tired at home. I have no motivation. Everything feels harder than it should. I feel disconnected, even when I'm resting. Nothing dramatic is happening. That's the problem. Dark gray doesn't create chaos, it creates stagnation. It dulls emotional response, suppresses creativity, and subtly lowers drive. Over time, that muted environment can spill into relationships, work, and daily decision-making. This is why dark gray works in offices, showrooms, and hotels, places designed for neutrality and short-term use. But homes are different. Homes are where your nervous system is supposed to recover. A space that constantly dampens stimulation eventually dampens you. And here's the most deceptive part. People often think they're being disciplined, minimalist, or mature by choosing dark gray. But what they're really doing is removing the very elements that help the human brain feel alive: warmth, contrast, and emotional cues. That's why even expensive, well-designed gray interiors can feel oddly lifeless. So if your home is dominated by dark gray, it doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It just means your space may be quietly working against you. The good news is, you don't need to tear everything down to fix it. And in the next part, I'll show you exactly how to neutralize dark gray and bring energy back into your space without starting over. How to neutralize dark gray without starting over. If your home already has dark gray walls, furniture, or flooring, there's no need to panic and no need to rip everything out. The solution isn't removal, it's balance. Dark gray becomes a problem when it dominates. When you reintroduce warmth, contrast, and life, its draining effect weakens almost immediately. Start with living elements. Plants are the fastest way to bring energy back into a muted space. They add movement, texture, and natural variation, all signals the nervous system responds to positively. Even one or two well-placed plants can change how a room feels. Next, add color with intention. This doesn't mean clutter or bright chaos. It means warmth and contrast. Artwork with movement. Textiles in soft greens, warm creams, muted yellows, or earthy tones. These elements break visual flatness and give the brain something to engage with in a healthy way. Light matters more than people realize. If natural light is limited, use layered lighting instead of a single overhead source. Warm light in different areas creates depth and comfort, helping the space feel alive again. Texture also plays a role. Wood, fabric, stone, and organic materials soften the rigidity of gray surfaces. They add sensory information that helps the body relax. What you're doing here isn't fixing decor. You're restoring the conditions your nervous system needs to reset. Many people notice changes quickly, not because the room looks radically different, but because it feels different. The space stops pulling energy and starts giving some back. The bigger picture. Your home isn't just where you sleep and store things. It's where your nervous system spends hours every day deciding whether it's safe to rest or necessary to stay alert. Color plays a bigger role in that process than most people think. Some colors support clarity, warmth, and recovery. Others quietly suppress them. Dark gray isn't evil, it's just incomplete when used without balance. Your home should recharge you, not flatten you. And when your environment starts supporting your body instead of fighting it, motivation returns naturally. Focus improves. Rest feels deeper. Life feels lighter, without forcing anything. That's the real shift. Not changing yourself, changing the conditions around you. If this resonated, take a look around your space with fresh eyes. Notice what feels warm. Notice what feels heavy. Your body already knows the answer. And if you found this helpful, share it with someone who's been feeling stuck, without knowing why. Sometimes the smallest changes create the biggest relief. If this made you look at your space differently, hit the like button so more people can see it. Subscribe for more videos on how your environment shapes your energy and focus. And if you've ever lived in a place that looked great but never felt right, drop a comment. Your experience might help someone else connect the dots.